There's a time when they made sense. Yeah, actually. So in the UK, it is considered very improper to cut into your bread roll with your knife. That is bad, which makes no fucking sense, because why would you pick up your bread roll with your disgusting hands that have been God knows where and spread all of your bacteria onto the lovely bread crust, which is full of sugar for the bacteria to feast on? But the tradition stems, from my knowledge, from medieval times, where noble lords would come to the dinner table with their hunting daggers, and they would be using their hunting daggers to like carve the meat. The daggers were not clean. They would have blood all over them, etc., etc. And therefore, if you tried to use that knife to cut into a bread roll, which is made from like fine white flour all ground up, then you just get all that dirt and grime all over your bread roll. That's why we have that tradition, which is from ages ago. So you pick it up with your hand, you break it with your hands, and then you use your knife to put butter onto it. But you're not meant to cut the bread roll with your knife. Chat, I learned about all of this and I was like, that's so dumb. Over the course of my 7 PhDs, I have been lucky enough to have dinner with like professors and other important people and other important members of the university. And something that really struck me was genuinely, once I knew the etiquette, I looked around and every single one of my professors was opening their bread roll with their hands. None of them were using their knife to cut into the bread roll. And I looked around at my peers and all of the people who had gone to private boarding schools were opening the bread roll with their hands. But everyone else was like happily knifing away. And I just thought to myself, if I hadn't known that piece of trivia, I wouldn't know that actually the correct thing to do etiquette-wise is something counterintuitive. And just by noticing that, I had like subconsciously realized who was in the know and who was not in the know. And I really did not like that. But it is a thing. It is one of those things in society where it's one of like those little ways that you can tell things apart. And like, obviously, if you don't know etiquette, it doesn't make you a better or worse person. Like, it's completely irrelevant. But if you were the kind of person to judge someone by social status, you would notice that subconsciously. Like, if you're the kind of person who went to a school that taught you it's rude if you break a bread roll with your hands, then you would look at people who are cutting it with their knife and think, wow, they're being like rude right now. Like, you might think that, if not consciously, subconsciously. And that is a trippy thing. And that is something I think to be aware of. And so a part of me is like, I wish we could teach everyone etiquette, but a part of me is also like, just let it die, because it's kind of stupid. It's kind of silly to have these traditions where you have to be unhygienic with your bread roll because that's what we say we should do. So I don't know what the right answer is to that dilemma, because I'm like, it's silly, but also, could this have a meaningful impact on, I don't know, someone at a business dinner, on some kind of meeting, on someone's impression of someone else for the first time? Yeah, it could have an impact on that. I don't like it, but it's interesting. But yeah, all these little influences and social dynamics are just interesting. Some traditions are meant to fade away. That's the other thing. I will say that etiquette is very, very diverse, and something that is like correct to British culture, etiquette culture, is like wrong in another culture. So at the end of the day, I don't think you can really read that much into it. The UK specifically has still quite a lot of influence from the aristocratic classes. So it is what it is, chat. It is what it is. I don't like it, but I know what it is. As long as you know basic table manners, you're good. Yeah, I agree. I agree. You're pretty good. It's like not something to stress about. I don't know. I just thought it was an anecdote that made me think a lot about society. And now all of you have to think about it as well. But that is why I don't mind like knowing it. I find knowing etiquette interesting. And one day I will do some etiquette hand cam streams when I feel the urge to. And I can do a whole 2-hour session on how to eat afternoon tea properly, because I have taught that before. So yeah, we can do that one day. We can do that one day. But for now, I just want to say like, yeah, there's actually a lot of like etiquette rules that you don't even think about that just exist, and they're silly. You don't really need to know them.